welcome back. My name is Shaun Bindley and my guest on the program is Steve Dickson, the member for Buderim. Steve, you have an obvious interest in water. The floods here in Brisbane last year. Tell me about your experience with floods growing up in central Queensland. It's an interesting story. You tell me about that flash flood.
Well, very, very much so. In Jalobba where we are, we had the Dee River running through our property, and my dad was at work trying to earn some extra money working on the railways.
When is this? What year is this?
This is, I think it was about 1967, 68. It was just before we left the farm. And it was terrible when you think we didn't get any water. It didn't rain where we were, but we got a flash flood that went through our property. Dad had actually had the tractor down in the basin of the creek and he was drilling for water. And he rang Mum up and said, listen, there's a flash flood coming. You need to get the tractor out of the creek. So she's taken me down there. I was just a little toddler and I've gone along with her. And she's driving the tractor up out of the creek and it stalled halfway up the bank. And she had to get her neighbours over, hooked a wire onto it so they could pull it out. And then this 3 metre wall of water is coming down the creek with big logs and so forth in it. And it's the sort of thing you just never, ever forget. You know, to see something like that is quite amazing. That's why you never, ever camp in a riverbed.
Or build large palatial houses in floodplains there.
Very much so. Land use planning is a very interesting topic, and I'm sure we'll hear a lot about that in the flood inquiry.
Yeah, we certainly will, won't we? Look, I mean, you've owned vineyards. Tell me about your horse-drawn carriage service that you ran up on the Sunshine Coast.
Actually, that is the only business that I've ever been involved in that I've never made money out of. It was a passion. I like horses. My wife and I very much like horses, and I set up this horse-drawn carriage business, and we did weddings and bits and pieces, but the maintenance and the time and effort you've got to put into it, it's not a money-making process. I had a lot of fun, but I lost a few dollars in it. It's life.
I dare say a lot like owning a vintage car and hoping to rent it out for people to use for their weddings. A lot more work put in than you probably take out of it.
Well, it's hard to use horses as a tax write-off, but you can do that with your vintage car with depreciation. But, mate, I was involved in that probably for about 6 or 8 months. It was a lot of fun. I enjoyed it. In Montville, if you can imagine driving 2 horses up the middle of the street of Montville, mate, it was beautiful. I thoroughly enjoyed it. Well, it's a lot of fun, but didn't make any money.
Looks great on the tourism brochures.
Very much so.
Now, I mean, you're a keen fossicker, but to the extent that you've actually leased mines as well.
I have.
And how does that work? Tell me how you become involved in that in the first place.
It's in the bloodstream as well. Mount Morgan, and you may not be aware of this, was the 2nd biggest gold mine in the world. That's where I grew up. And my dad was a very keen fossicker, so I used to take us out fossicking with him a lot. And we actually had a gold mine together in North Queensland, and we did okay out of that as well. That's another little business interest I've not spoken about. Deb and I actually bought an opal lease out at Lightning Ridge, a place called the Sheepyards, and we had a lot of fun out there. I didn't make a hell of a lot of money out of that either. We pretty well broke even, but it was good to take the kids out. We were mining underground, and you've never met my wife. She's a petite, 5 foot, probably 2, blonde-headed lady, and quite an attractive lady, but to see her with a jackhammer mining underground, it's a real sight.
I'm struggling to put Steve Dickson into perspective because you've got so many different aspects. I mean, how many things have you been working on at one stage? You've got the vineyard, and you've got the caravan park, and you've got mining leases. How did you manage to fit all this in together? And I dare say it probably set in place some pretty good work practices for the kind of workload you have these days.
I think what it's done is given me a great deal of experience in a lot of different areas, and I've taken all that with me, and you only know about half of it. There's lots more. But the reality is it's like life generally. You take all those experiences with you and you utilise them for whatever you're going to do in the future, and I very much look forward to the future, and I look forward to utilising the ability that I do have. And I mean, it is all about good business management. It's all about planning, and unless you plan, the old analogy is you plan to fail.
Can you still find time for your outside interests, scuba diving, martial arts? I mean, you look pretty fit for a gentleman who's nearly 50.
I feel pretty good, but I haven't been doing a lot of martial arts recently. I've got both ligaments torn in my elbow. My son did that to me when we were training together. We do full contact, and I like it very much. I mean, you need to keep the mind and the body fit. If you don't, again, you'll fail. Everything will start to let you down. I'm nobody special. I'm just a normal human being like the rest of the world.
You spent a time growing up in the Philippines.
I did. Spend a bit of time
also
over
in
there.
Papua New Guinea. We have that in common. I spent a couple of years growing up in Papua New Guinea as well. You take some of those experiences with you and bring them into modern life. How do they affect who you are these days?
I think it's a matter of mixing with different cultures as well. You know, it was a great education when I first arrived in the Philippines to see people smashing pieces of concrete apart to get reinforcing steel out of it so they could sell it. You wouldn't see that happen here in Australia. And the people in Papua New Guinea are absolutely beautiful people. I lived in Manus Island for a while and in the Admiralty Gulf. And I was quite shocked when I found out we had one of those detainee bases over there, which that was at the old naval base. You know, I've had a great upbringing, but it brings me to the point where we are today. You can change nothing in the past, but you can change everything in the future. And I think we as human beings, I think we all need to get a head around that. We've got a great opportunity here in Queensland, not too far away. I think the date of the election is well and truly called now. And I hope the people of Queensland take great advantage of that. They have an opportunity to change the focus of Queensland into the future.
How's the election process going to go over the next 5 to 6 weeks? We're looking at 24th, 25th of March. It's already starting to look a little, I don't want to say nasty, but the pressure's going to come on over the next couple of fortnights. It will.
It's the political way that people do different things, and I'm not here to speak badly about anybody today, but the people of Queensland will need to make a decision, and they need to look at people's records as our records are put on the table. If you think Labor has done a really good job, vote for them. But on the other hand, if you think they've done a really bad job, get rid of them. And I can tell you, as far as water and energy is concerned, and they're my portfolios and I know them back to front, the cost of energy has gone up by 65% in the last 5 years. The cost of water will go up by 25% every year for the next 7 years under this government. And under an LNP-led government, we will drop water by $80 a year straight up and drop electricity by 120. And they're my plans. And I will work very, very diligently given the opportunity to do exactly that.
Are you solid in Buderim?
Pardon me?
Solid in Buderim?
Buderim's a great area. If the people re-elect me again, I'll do a very good job on their behalf. But that's up to the people.
And how are you feeling going into the election?
I'm feeling pretty fit and I'm feeling pretty good and I look forward to the future. But opportunity abounds and it does get back to the people. And it's the people of Queensland that are important to us all.
Steve Dickson, thank you for your time.
Shaun, I appreciate your time. It's been fun.
You've been watching Meet the Ministers, and before we go, Meet the Ministers is up for a Logie nomination. So if you would like to support the show, do a bit of Googling. We don't even have the information yet, but I'd love your support. My name is Shaun Bindley. You've been watching Meet the Ministers, and I look forward to joining you again next week.